one thing that my personal level, Malikiti, interesting laga is exactly this as well, right? Because there's obviously oily code generation, but there's a big chunk of people that come to the US or Australia or UK for higher studies. A segment of that actually go back. There aren't a lot of people that do this moving back and forth. मैले आफ्नो लाइफमा I moved back to Nepal twice, होइन? So I sort of understand the nuances. And I think, with aging parents and so on, we have a lot of things that pull us back. One question I have for you is, but now you have seen your 60s, 70s, देखिको Nepal, and you've moved back several times, होइन? Back and forth हजुरको, because what also happens is, when we think about our diaspora, धेरै मान्छेको केसमा चाहिँ they come here, they finish their study, they settle here, or even if they go back, it's after a few years. But most people try to, go frequently. But there is this gap, right? So, हजुरको केसमा चाहिँ it's been back and forth pretty frequently जस्तो खालको. त्यो सोच्दाखेरि, the version of Nepal you experienced as a child, होइन, as a young person, and you've gone over time. त्यो हेर्दाखेरि हजुरलाई how has that evolution been, जस्तो लाग्छ?
That's a very good question, Pritiji, because we are all kind of prisoners of our own experience, right? And then we are also kind of evolutionary creatures based on certain routes and the way that we travel, and sometimes become nomads, sometimes settle in different places. Because even within Nepal, people from my generation begin to move from the hills to the plains, a little more comfort and a little more better economy. And then many people who had slightly better education even moved to Kathmandu and settled, which was a different world by any means. So all those things had changed. But a long time ago, the contrast between, let's say, a Nepali village and Nepali urban area, and then Nepal and big cities in India, and Nepal, India, or the US or Europe, was like a dramatic difference. It was like some of my friends used to say in the engineering institute before I had seen Europe and America, they used to say that, hey, if you go there, you'll get actually a big cultural shock, because in terms of not just the anthropological human culture, but in terms of the way that things are done, the cleanliness, the quality, the efficiency, the development, all of that will kind of really shock you big time. That's what they used to tell me, because that was the kind of really big difference. There was a lot of development and consolidation and science and technology in Europe and the US or North America or Japan. And Nepal was, $150 a year per capita. 99% of people were like me, undernourished, no good opportunities for education, basically maybe one or two pairs of clothes in the whole entire year if you're lucky. And if you're lucky, then you had maybe close to 70-80% of your calorie intake guaranteed to you, because there was a lot of hunger and there was a lot of issues. So there was a really big contrast. So when I first time I left Nepal and saw the rest of the world, it was sky and earth, right? So these days, and then of course I've been going to Nepal very frequently. And even when I worked here, I went there every year or two. Now there's a lot of convergence in terms of the comforts, in terms of the things that you see, whether it is an iPhone or whether it is the home that you live, the indoor plumbing, whether it is driving a motorbike or a car, or even flying some places, or even the quality of the roads, even the kind of food that you can basically manage to eat, go to a restaurant, or buy clothes. It's kind of globalized, and also, relatively speaking, Nepal also has improved economically. There's a lot of middle class people. And especially if you go to some big cities in India, which I went back to the place that I studied a couple of times, there is a big convergence between here and there. There might be some differences institutionally, but in terms of many things, whether it is a shopping mall or the TV or the computing, or people having a really good education or fashion or clothes or whatever, there's not much difference. So the interesting thing is what we have seen in our lifetime. Of course, your generation saw a lot of things already when you were young, But in our lifetime, maybe the average per capita income was less than $100 per year globally. Now the average global per capita income is about 15,000 US dollar per year globally. There are countries like Nepal, which is not too bad, about $1,200 per capita now. But there are some countries in Africa which are like still $250, $300, $400 per year. There are very few. And then many other countries have really caught up. And in terms of the economy and comfort and benefit, then being able to go to school, in terms of the literacy rate, in terms of the life expectancy, in terms of the childhood mortality, in terms of having a bike or a car or a motorbike, having enough 1,800, 2,000 calories per day to be able to eat, and having, a couple pairs of clothes, or even taking some vacation. The vast majority of the world has kind of converged into a lot more development in